How's it going, guys? Hope everyone's doing good. I had an amazing channeling session tonight, probably one of the best I've had in a long time, and lately it's just been going like that a lot, so I figured I wouldn't put it to waste. And I'm just going to go over a couple things that I'm going to be diving deeper into in the near future. And just a quick note, these are probably not for the beginner. It's some pretty advanced information. So if you started here on this video, it's probably best to watch the few that I posted before this one. But if you have a decent degree of knowledge about this stuff already, then you should be okay. But anyway, so looking at the concept of quantum, the difference between quantum and linear. Quantum is, it doesn't have individual aspects that you can explain. It's the spiritual realm. It goes beyond linear thinking, and linear means that is like how human brains think. You live, you die, boom, you're done. And of course that's not how things really are. So quantum is like a general term for describing basically anything that our human brains are limited to comprehend, limited to not be able to comprehend. Things like the senses and the elements, they all kind of blend into each other in the quantum realm. And there's an infinite amount of universes as well, and an infinite amount of different dimensions. But coming to understand exactly how quantumness works, it's almost like, since it is unexplainable, it has everything, an aspect of everything within it pretty much. You could say that it is physical and it is metaphysical at the same time. And I've witnessed it take place on both planes of reality, which I'll get to in a minute. And so when you start talking about other dimensions and other planes of reality and whatnot, a big quantum fact is that there's an endless amount of different variations of these infinite universes. Of course, that's what infinite means, but it's quite literally, there's an endless amount, and there's endless variations that it can take place in, as far as the elements that it's made up out of, and whether it is even a physical or a metaphysical plane of reality. And what I mean by that is, of course, the spirit realm is another plane of reality. It's another dimension, but it's not a physical dimension. And there's an endless amount of spiritual dimensions that you can go to that are metaphysical and don't have physical matter within them, and those could absolutely all be considered another plane of reality or another dimension as well. But if you take it to the physical aspect of that same idea, you start to realize that on the physical expression of these different dimensions and planes of reality, that it's almost as if one of the major factors that determines the plane of existence that you're within and the dimension is your size. And a great way to look at that is looking at microorganisms, something I've been doing a lot of research into lately, because I believe that metaphysically and physically this can describe to us in a great way about how existence in general works, but most definitely on the physical scale. So again, like I said, that on the physical plane, it seems that these different dimensions that we can go into are highly based around the size of the individuals and ecosystems that are within these dimensions. And when I say difference in sizes, I don't mean slightly, I mean to the microscopic level, or the macroscopic level, or whatever you want to call it. There's huge shit too, other than just small things. So there's a lot of different, of actual full manifested physical creatures that live down at microscopic levels on everything, on every surface of everything that exists. If you go down deep enough with magnification, you can magnify them with electrons and light, and they've gotten to a point, and even just science that doesn't acknowledge the existence of the spiritual realm, they've gotten it to where you can zoom all the way into, like, say, a carpet per se, and you'll see millions of individual beings, and they're fully manifested exoskeleton full ass creatures and beings. And these beings in the microorganism plane of awareness, whatever you want to call it, are so small that the area around them, which is still microscopic to us, is in size equivalent to our entire universe. So these beings are quite literally so small that their entire universe, compared to the size of us next to our universe, is still so small that we can't even perceive it with our vision because it's that microscopically small. And then they are even smaller than that. They're the size of us compared to our entire universe, while standing inside of that microscopic piece of existence. And it just keeps on going down and down and down. Like, you can think of like us, we're big, then you go to animals, they're a little smaller, then you go to bugs, and bugs are a little smaller. And then once you start getting past bugs, you kind of are still moving into bugs, but they're microscopic. Like, you get mites and like bed bugs and shit, you can barely see things like them, and then it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And some of these things that I was mentioning a minute ago that live in entire universes that are so small that we can't even perceive them, are so small that even standing next to the smallest of bugs that we could perceive, say a gnat or a bed bug, you can see it, or a flea, it's just a little tiny dot that you can only see if you put a lot of effort into it. And these ones that I was speaking about in the beginning are so small that they're even microscopic to a gnat. Not even a gnat has the capacity to be able to see them visually, because they're literally that embedded into the surface of what we're on. Like, compared to these microscopic beings, we may as well be fucking giants, quite literally. The bugs to them are giants. And there's an endless amount that you could just keep going down and down and down. Everything has beings in its own universe. And it's weird to think about that the carpet that we walk across, there is millions of beings on millions of different levels of existence, just simply in the fucking carpet and on the surface of different things. Certain different creatures like certain different environments, like rust. Rust has its own kind of beings. And one thing that is super amazing to me, I had this realization probably about a month ago, and that is many beings on this plane, on the microscopic scale, are literal microscopic mimics of certain animals and creatures that we know on this plane that we interact with. And this is something that you can go look up, and you can find pictures of these things that have been taken on these amazing microscopes. These beings that are so small that even a gnat would perceive them as nothing, because they're so small compared to even a gnat, are in many cases quite literally mimics of creatures that we know on Earth, like scorpions and centipedes and caterpillars. And those three specifically, it's not like they just sort of look like them. They quite literally take on their defense mechanisms. They take on their physical structure, the structure of their skeleton, and they are quite literally microscopic scorpions, centipedes, caterpillars, and a lot more. And what this leads you to conclude, I just feel like obviously, is that either these microscopic creatures are direct descendants of the things that they're mimicking in our plane, or they're so intelligent that they're mimicking, manifesting, and evolving based off of the appearance and defense mechanisms of creatures they observe from their point of view. So either they're direct descendants from the things that they're mimicking, or they're so intelligent that they're picking up on defense mechanisms of beings that I guess they're observing from their level of point of view, and then they're copying them. But if you ask me, it seems like they would absolutely just have to be a direct descendant in some way. And the fact that that resonates all the way up to our plane, and all the way back down to a microscopic level that's that small, is an amazing thing to think about. I mean, think about the fact that there's scorpions here in our world, and then if you were to shrink yourself down smaller than the fucking, I mean, a million times smaller than a gnat, there's still going to be scorpions and shit. That's really strange to think about. And as I was looking at all the pictures of these different beings that they have at the microscopic level. And I highly recommend going and checking them out because it's amazing to observe. There just is billions and millions of beings, and then you zoom out from them, and it's like just a little piece of whatever's in that room is their entire universe. And then if you zoom out further, you realize that the whole universe-sized thing that you were just looking at compared to that being was so small that you can no longer even perceive it because you've zoomed out. But what I observed that really amazed me about, in particular, these types of beings that are very intricately designed and very unmistakably structured. They're quite literally definition identical to a lot of the beings that I see in the ether with my extrasensory perception. And it's something that I've developed to a point to where it used to freak me out, but now I can just, I see energy in the air, things flying through the fucking air all the time, and I see people's energy fields in my own. But most importantly, which amazes me the most, is that I can see the ether, the creation on it's omnipresent. It's on everything. So there's nowhere where you'll look that it's not, because as soon as you put your intent on a spot and you're expecting something to be there, it's going to most certainly be there. That's how creation, quantum ether realm works. So these beings that I see at the microscopic level, and there's slight differences in a lot of these things, like the scorpions, you can recognize a scorpion, but some of these creatures that you can find pictures of on physical pictures through microscopes are so detailed that I mean, you couldn't come up with some shit like this, and yet they're identical to beings that I see in the ether all over like the walls and shit like that. And the thing is about them, when I see them in the ether and I see them in the spiritual realm, and that's another thing to keep in mind, is that the ether would be the spiritual manifestation of these same beings, I'm assuming. Because when I see these beings within the ether, they are like dog-sized. They're probably like 2 foot long. But they're the exact same fucking beings, like down to the T, down to the very detail of the smallest of microscopic creatures. And the fact that that resonates all the way back up to us, even in certain creatures that we know, and it's also manifesting in the spiritual realm, but a billion times bigger than it is actually physically appearing in the physical reality, which would be the microscopic levels. It just shows absolute proof of animism. Even these beings that are down to the most smallest quantum microscopic levels are manifesting as a spiritual essence in the spirit realm. And that's not something that I would ever question, because I know as a fact in myself that every single thing that we perceive in the physical most certainly hailed from the metaphysical, without a doubt. But I never quite made the connection that even these microscopic aspects of living material are manifesting in the spiritual plane. And I mean, think about how much there must be in the spiritual aspect of things, because there's an ever-present amount of smaller and smaller and bigger and different metaphysical planes, and they all come from creation, from the ether. So this has got to be a real fucking busy plane. So this same etheric omnipresent substance holds home to all other perceived phenomenon on the physical plane, but just in their soul or seed aspect. And that's something I'm going to dig a lot deeper into in the near future. And another thing that I wanted to just real briefly brush over, so maybe people can start like thinking on it before I post a more detailed recording, is the laws of resonance and attraction. And the laws of resonance and attraction go right hand in hand, because the resonance that you're vibrating at is what you're going to attract to yourself. You're going to attract vibratory resonances of like to yours, of like nature to your own. So resonance is like the rate or tone of your vibration, of your spiritual essence, because you could say that your spiritual soul aspect is like light and vibration mixed with a little bit of all the other senses, because it's quantum. And your vibrational resonance is going to be the tone or the rate at which your soul essence is vibrating at. And low vibratory beings are what we as a human would perceive as a negative or evil or whatever, which you see past when you get into the quantum realm. And then a higher vibratory resonance would be what we would perceive as our higher self, or angels, beings of knowledge that are here to help us and that want to help us find our I am. But anyway, active intentional seeking of higher self-knowledge draws in that same like vibration from the cosmos. And this is before even any beings are attracted to you. Once you start to develop the knowledge of self and you start to dedicate yourself to that train of thought, you're going to start pulling in what you could think of as like a potential from the cosmos, and it's going to come down and it's going to enter your energy field. And then it's going to enable your energy field to vibrate at energetically at a higher resonance. So you're going to use this potential for high resonance that you've brought down from the cosmos with your dedication and with your seeking of higher knowledge, and you're going to put it into action to actually make yourself vibrate at a higher resonance. So that is what you could say is the separate part, the law of resonance. You could think of it as like tuning your instrument. Like I said, we have 5 different instruments in our human aspect, the senses that we're conveying individual aspects of spirit through, and the soul's a combination of all those. So we're tuning our spiritual vibrational essence to a like nature of whatever we're seeking out, and of a like resonance. So once we start to take those two, I wouldn't say extremes, but to dedicated levels, that's when we start drawing in the energy that, like I said, you could think of as potential from the cosmos, because it's giving us this to work with. And then once we have that around us, it, like I said, it enters our energy field. And then if we're sticking with the path of higher knowledge and we're still keeping true to the word, then we'll quite immediately start to use it and actually start to vibrate at a higher resonance, which will take effect on a lot of different levels. It'll take effect physically, you'll feel better mentally, spiritually, you'll be more capable, and little by little, or a lot by a lot, you'll start to vibrate at a higher resonance. And then through the law of attraction, your newfound resonance is one of higher knowledge, because that's what you're seeking. So that's what you're making your resonance. You're resonating a high vibration, the seeking of self-knowledge. And then once that happens through the law of attraction, you start to attract beings of like knowledgeable high vibratory resonance. So the law of attraction and the law of resonance are pretty much the same thing, because you're attracting beings of a like resonance. So it's just like one aspect. It's like a dual aspect, resonance and attraction. And once you stick with these dedicated trains of thought, spiritually and mentally, you'll realize that your energy field, which is now vibrating at a higher resonance, is going to start to filter out low vibratory resonances, and you're going to start to just be able to easily pick out fools and deception, because they're vibrating at a low resonance and they just won't have anything on your capacity to see them coming from a mile away. But you'll start to filter out all of the negative, and then as well you'll start to attract beings of a higher resonance like you got yourself on. And this can come in many different manifestations. It can come as a physical teacher, a person that you know, or someone that you will know who's going to teach you something. It could manifest as a spirit guide. It could manifest as getting in touch with your higher self, or it could even lead you to your next good friends who are going to be going on this journey with you. I know that my higher self has led me to some real good guys that I feel like are my brothers now, and it's beautiful how you can see all this stuff take place. You start to resonate at a high vibration, and then you keep your faith into it. You keep you keep knowledgeable, you keep learning, keep knowing that you are God, and then it's like as soon as you look, you'll see some synchronicities, and if you follow the synchronicities and you keep content and you keep faithful, then it's just inevitably going to work in your favor, as long as you are putting some kind of effort forth, and putting the effort forth to keep gaining knowledge every day, and not always thinking that you're right, and being able to say, oh yeah, I was kind of wrong about something like that, because suppressing any kind of anything is going to be just sticking with your ego. And the whole idea is to either kill the ego or merge with the ego, because we're not just the person who we are. I'm not just Gage. I've been many other people, many other times, in many other places. And that's my reality. I wake up every day and I remember that instantly. And that's how you start working yourself into the realist levels of manifestation. Like I said in the last video, the more that you know versus believe. Belief requires reassurance. When you know something, you truly know it. And if you don't, then you just don't know it. And it all comes down to your amount of dedication in it. And dedication is something that I feel like we should solidify exactly what that means. Obviously, all great things require a good amount of challenge, but you don't ever want to be dedicated to something that you feel like you shouldn't be doing and you don't resonate with, and that is taking its toll on you in a way that isn't necessary. So dedication doesn't mean stress and worry when you fall short, and always be worrying about whether or not you're doing this thing right because you have to be dedicated to it. It shouldn't be a chore, basically, is what I'm saying. It should be a passion. It means that you have like a true, naturally occurring passion and determination towards the subject at hand, and trust fully that you resonate with the morals and values of what it resonates with. So dedication should be passionate and comfortable. Obviously, there's going to be a decent amount of challenge, but anybody who is truly dedicated to something that they love doesn't see it as a challenge. It sees it as almost like a game or a dance. And then you just start to work yourself into that mindset. You don't really worry as much because you know that you're here to do it and you're going to do it. It's inevitable. And when it comes to stuff like this, there is truly no higher purpose other than, especially in this time that we are in this world, where all these negative forces have completely taken away this knowledge from everybody and suppressed it down to the point to where it's beyond mythology. It's just not even fucking thought about. Spreading this kind of stuff right here is the most important of things that are even to do on this earth right now, because if this information isn't spread, then there won't be any hope at all whatsoever. There's so many people who think nothing about anything like this every day. They just do their thing in the system that they were put into. And those people are doing no good for the collective consciousness whatsoever. And they're the majority, so it's going to take a lot of dedication and a lot of self-knowing on our part to make up for that. But I will return soon. I just wanted to go over a couple things real quick. Hit me up if you got anything to add, anything I missed. I'd love to know. And I will talk to you guys soon. Much love.